Hey, good morning. Welcome to my channel. My name is Jeremy Lee. If you're students in school and if you're interested in history, then this channel might be for you. Today we are going to talk about God's covenant with Abraham. Yes. So, starting from Genesis 1 to Genesis 11, we know the story, we know the narrative that God created the world and He created human according to His image, that on behalf of Him, humans should rule the world in behalf of humans should rule the world on behalf of God with love, truth, goodness, and beauty. Yes, but unfortunately, because of the sin, because of the rebellion of a human, because of the rebellion of Adam and Eve, then what happened? The world falls apart. Sin creeps in into the creation, and the humanity itself becomes sinful, become wicked, from bad to worse, from evil to worse, and then by the end of chapter 11, the story was being described there that men tried to build for themselves their glory. They tried to build for themselves their name by building a high tower up into the sky known as the Tower of Babel, with the purpose to compete with God, try to proclaim and boastful before God. Now that is the symbol of wickedness. And what happens after that? God confused the language, and then, humans start to quarreling against each other. They start to arguing against each other. That's what happened to us, isn't it? If we are trying to bragging against each others, if you are bragging to one another, then what will happen? There will be chaos. There will be conflict. It's not gonna be good. So that's the lesson learned we can learn from the Tower of Babel towards the end of the chapter 11 in book of Genesis. So there is this questions that remains. What God is going to do with the world? What God is going to do with human? Several chapters before that, with the wickedness of men, God wiped off the world clean with the flood. Will He do that again? He will wipe out the humanity. Now, apparently, starting from chapter 12 all the way to the end of book of Genesis, God's solution for the evil world is through covenant with a family by the name of family of Abraham. And this is the journey. First, let us define what is covenant. Covenant, in a simplistic way, it means promise. Yes, it means promise, but not simplistic kind of like way of promise. For example, like let's have a play date by tomorrow evening at 7 o'clock. No, not that simple. Now, this is a serious promise. Covenant is a serious promise. Covenant is a if-then agreement between two persons or between two groups of people. Yes, pay attention on the if-then. Okay? Now, if-then is a concept that probably you are familiar with, but probably you never think about it. Okay? If-then it goes like this. Probably you learn it from your home. If you, for example, do not do your homework, then the punishment will be given to you. So what I'm trying to say, do not get confused with this if-then concept, okay? So if you do this, then this will happen to you. Okay? So again, back to the covenant. So covenant is an agreement between two people or two groups. Now, one of the example that you can see of a covenant is a husband and wife. When both of them they make a promise in front of the altar, in front of God, in front of the pastors, in front of their family, that they will become husband and wife. They made a covenant. Both of them having an agreement to stay faithful to one another, to love and care for one another. So, in the beginning of the story of Abraham, God promised to Abraham three things. Yes? First, God will bless Abraham that he will become a great nation. Second, God will bless the family of Abraham, so the family of Abraham become blessing for the neighbors, become blessing for many nations, for the world. Okay? Third, God promised to Abraham that the land that they were wandering around at that time, which is, there's a story behind that, right? The story that they left their hometown, they left the city of Ur, and then the luxury, the comfortable lifestyle that they can have in city of Ur, now they have to live as a wanderer. They have to live in the tent. They have to moving from one place to another place to another place to another place. They do not have any land, and they do not have a permanent house in a foreign land. And in the third promise, here's God said that you will have this land, the land that you are wandering right now, the land known will be as which is known as the promised land or the Canaan land. these three folds of promise that God made to Abraham. Now, in this story, God invited Abraham to make a covenant. Yes, covenant, an agreement between two persons, between God and Abraham. Think about it. Now, interesting. There is this kind of like ancient rituals that the ancient people in the past they are practicing it. I mean, they are doing it every time they have a covenant, every time they have an agreement. And we're no longer doing this kind of like rituals. In the ancient times, whenever someone make an agreement, then they will collect these animals. Pay attention. First, they will have a goat, they will have a ram, okay? They will have a heifer. Heifer is a female young cow. Yes. And okay, not just that three. Another two is they will collect a pigeon and they will collect a turtle dove. First, they will have to collect a goat, a ram, a heifer, turtle dove, and also a pigeon. Yeah, two birds and four legs animals. Okay. So now what they have to do later on is going to be bloody and it's going to be gruesome. Okay, I'm not going to try to go deeper into details. Okay, because I might ruin your appetite. So they have to split the animals except for the birds. Yes, the goat they will have to split in half, and the heifer too, and also the ram they will have to split in half. And after that, one part on one side and then the other half on the other side. Okay, they will form a line. I think I will show you guys the picture here as an illustration. Now, as the ritual, as the binding ritual means kind of like they both agree, both party, both person, they will have to walk through in between of this kind of like bloody animal parts. Yeah, it's bloody and it's messy, and you have to barefooted exactly. So it's a ritual that is not suitable for those of you who have who have a weak stomach. And yeah, I wouldn't do it either. So it's just way too. Okay, so now both party they have to walk in between these animals, and as they are walking, okay, the first one and after that the second one, now both they have to make a promise that I fill in the blank the name, okay, I will keep this agreement alive. I will stay faithful to this agreement. If I break the agreement, if I break my promise, may I end up like these animals. Yes, died brutally. So it was a very kind of like very bold. It was a very bold kind of like agreement. And after the person done that, and then the other party also do the same thing too. For example, Abraham, I will keep this covenant. I will keep this agreement. If I break the covenant, if I break the promise, then I will die, just like these animals, bloody and brutal. Yes. So that is kind of like ancient rituals that they had in the ancient time whenever they had an agreement. Yeah. So it's a serious one. It's a serious agreement. In this story, like when God make a covenant with Abram, it was late at night. God make Abram to fall asleep. So, but not fall asleep as in like a baby. Yeah, it's kind of a bit weird kind of sleep. He fell asleep, but then again, he's aware, and then Abraham can still see things like what's going on. So, interesting is, at that night, God appears to Abraham as a torch of fire and a pot of smoke. Whenever God appears to human in the Old Testament, he appears as a smoke, he will appear as a fire. Yeah, interesting. That is a symbol. That is a symbol of God. So, and after that, this kind of like weird vision that Abraham saw in his sleep, God, which just appears as a pot of smoke and also torch of fire, he walked through between these two animals. Okay, not just one time, but second time. Now, what does that mean? It means like this: God, he make the promise with Abraham. He make the covenant with Abraham, and he did it twice. Now, what does that mean? It means he took the part of Abraham. Now, what is that? So, it means like he make a promise on behalf of Abraham. Confused? Okay, don't be. Let me explain it. Look, I said earlier about the rituals. Well, according to the rituals, it should be both party, right? It should be two person who walk through between these two animals, yeah, as they make a promise against each others, and then that they will end up dead if they break the law. Now, God did not let Abraham to do it. He took it by himself. So what does that mean? What does that mean? It means if one of them, if God broke the promises of the covenant, or if Abraham broke the covenant or the promises, who is going to die brutally, bloody, like these animals? Who will take the punishment? Is it Abraham? No, it's not Abraham. It's God. So it's God is the one who will take the consequences if one of the party, which is either Abraham or God, break the promise. But here's the thing: can God break the promise? Can faithful God, which is that is His character, will break His promise? Certainly not, right? But can Abraham, as a human being, break the promises? The answer is definitely. He's a human being. He's not free from sin. As we learn more about the story about Abraham, he was not a perfect guy. He has sin. He has like weaknesses, but yet God still considered him as a righteous. And boom, exactly. So Abraham doesn't have to do anything about it because now God is the one who took the ritual twice. Because God knew at the time that Abraham will fail. God knew at the time eventually Abraham's descendants, Abraham's family will break the promise, break the covenant. This is true. That's what happened. If you study about like the ancient Israel history, which is we will talk more about it in grade 4, the history of the ancient nation of Israel is a story about like human rebellious heart against God. It's the story about like how the covenant between Abraham and God is being broken over and over and over again. And because of that one, Abraham and Abraham's descendants deserve to die just like this animal, bloody and brutal. But God did not let it happen. God let His own Son to die brutally on the cross 2,000 years later, after Abraham and God make this covenant. 2,000 years later, in the hill by the name of Calvary. Yes, Jesus Christ died brutally. He did not break the law. He was innocent, yet He was the one who took the punishment by dying brutally on the cross. So let me end it this way. Even though human is sinful, even though human is unfaithful, even though human is rebellious, but God is faithful and God is merciful. And now, with this God great faithfulness and also love, will you betray Him? Will you break the covenant after what He've done on the cross for us? So there you go. Tell me what you think about it. If you have any kind of like questions or comments or opinion, so please let me know. Okay? I see you guys next time. God bless you guys all. Bye-bye.